have, or whatever it takes, by any means necessary. Failure is not an option, kind of grind.
Look at the way you see me coming, I'll knock it down and it won't be funny. Look at the way you see me coming, I'll knock it down and it won't be funny.
No matter what, I always have to think strategically.
So, being a mom, you've had four beautiful daughters, and I've actually met one of them at the book signing, and they're all different, right? All different
Oh, yes,
personalities, right? Different
yes.
personalities. And they've also had their own personal ups and downs. So, when you see them, like what you were saying about your personal experience, what things did you notice with your daughters when they were having difficult moments, and how did you address that as when they were young, as they're adults? So these are things that parents can kind of look out for. If you see these things, and how did you handle them?
Well, sometimes these things can trip you up when you never see them.
Hmm.
Uh, my daughter was diagnosed, um, gosh, she had an aneurysm
Hmm.
before she turned 30. I think she was 27. This was a girl that she was the goalie in the soccer team, and she practiced every day. She played two teams. She was very much involved in sports throughout her entire school years. In school, she was a great student. She ended up going to USC, graduated there with a degree that she helped to create. And so they're all high achievers. My daughter, Savannah, graduated from Pepperdine and went on to graduate uh, Syracuse University. I'm sorry, just names are bad. I'm bad with names these days. 74, ain't no joke.
You're like,
But
okay, I know where they are. What's happening here?
right. But okay, so what was the question?
When your daughters had difficult moments, right? Maybe
Yes.
it is with self-esteem or
Yes.
confidence or difficult moments in life that they may not have articulated to you,
Mhm.
but
Yes.
you're able to see that. So
Yes.
how did you step in or handle that even as when they were young and also as they
Mhm.
got older because they're still your daughters? So how
Yeah,
did you handle
absolutely.
they're your daughter, they're your babies forever. So how did you handle that when they were young and let's say early 20s?
Okay, so young, I will give you a perfect example. Um, Bill, my husband, talks a lot. So his daughter, Cheyenne, my stepdaughter, she came home one day and I went to pick her up from school. Her grandmother had gone to pick her up and she couldn't find her and ended up being there over an hour and a half. And she said, I got to go. So I came in, tried to find her, couldn't find her. And then sure enough, later that night, she comes strolling in, walks through the door, runs up the steps, doesn't want anybody to see her. And she had gone swimming. We had told her she couldn't go to the swim party, but she went anyway. So Bill ended up talking to her. Um, we had this, you could sit in our kitchen and look over the driveway, and there was a guest house, and the office was in the top of the guest house. So you could see them through the window, right? And Savannah is looking at them, and Bill must have talked to her for more than 2 hours that day, nonstop, just talk,
Yeah.
just talk, just talk. So, and Savannah said, I'm never going to do that. She said, I'm never going to do anything. I don't want to sit there and listen for 2 hours. But there's that. There's the experience of making your children aware.
Mhm.
Because when he did talk to her, um, a lot of things opened up for her. So
Mhm.
we have to be able to sit down and talk to our children, number one.
Mhm.
Um, and the other part of your question?
Uh, well, in their 20s, because it shifts,
Yeah,
right? Certain
right.
things change.
Yeah.
So it's how do you address that in different stages? Maybe later teens, high school can be a little different than early 20s. So how did you handle it in that aspect or that age?
Um, I was really blessed to have young girls and young women who have a great deal of pride.
Mm,
So, even if I didn't influence them, they were always aware of who they wanted to be and how
mm,
they wanted to be presented. And sometimes, those happen where you don't expect it. I remember a very serious conversation that I had with one of my daughters, and she didn't think that I was going to understand at all. And she had put it off for a long time. And then when she finally came to talk to me, and I said, well, let's sit down, let's go. And she just started crying because she didn't think that I would want to sit and talk. So,
mm,
like sometimes it's not necessarily, like an action that you do, but it's just being able to be there so that they can listen, so they can bounce things off of you, so that
yeah.
they can see that they can talk to you no matter what problems that they have. They have
Mm,
to be able to, um, they have to be able to function in a society where they don't think that they're lost.
mm,
I think is the best way that I could put it. Because if we don't give them the support and let them know that they can do whatever they want to do, um, to any limit that they want to take it to, if we don't give them that support, then their generation, the next generation after them, their children, how do you raise your children?
mhm.
Because like I remember I talk too much, sorry.
No, you're dropping gems. I'm listening. I'm taking notes over here. You just don't see my imaginary AI pen writing stuff down. So this is amazing. I'm not stopping. I'm taking the
Oh
mental
no,
notes here.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember things that I wanted to do, and I never thought my parents would let me. And like when I was in the shot put for the Junior Olympics, not shot put, I'm sorry, standing broad jump and baseball throw. I think that was maybe the last year that they had the baseball throw for girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then when Title IX came in, all things changed. But my dad, and it was for the Junior Olympics, and my dad would take me to every city, that I had to compete. And then there was always the issue of racism as well, too, because I remember in third grade, we were supposed to be making Christmas presents for our parents. And it was to go into the woods, find a log, and they would come back, drill the holes in the log, and put candles in the log with the flowers. And
Mm,
so they wanted to know if any parent had a pickup truck. So I said, well, my dad does, and so they schedule it, and we're standing there in the parking lot at 7:30 in the morning when all the kids came to get it. And there were like maybe three or four chaperones, right? And we're all
yeah.
standing there and 9:30 comes around and they're going, Jayne, where's your dad? And I said, he's standing right here.
Yeah.
She said, we're waiting on your dad so we can take the truck over. I said, this is my dad standing right next to me. They thought he was white.
Wow.
They
Wow.
didn't they didn't think that he could be my father.
Huh. That's interesting. You're like, no,
My
this,
dad's very fair skinned.
yeah.
His father was white, his mother was black. They were not allowed to marry in the South.
Mm,
So his father did not live with them. Um, and they couldn't actually be seen together much. Um, but my father loved him. And my father's mom was murdered in front, basically in front of him. She died in his arms when he was only 10 years old.
wow.
Basically raised the rest of the children in his house and coming into fatherhood with his firstborn when he was only 19 and
Mm,
me when he was only 20 and with a wife, a beautiful wife. Um, and they had to learn from scratch, and I see a lot of people that they have a lineage of, oh, my parents went to this college, they went to this academy, went here, was in the army, but my family didn't come from that. So
yeah.
for me, everything came from the earth up.
Mm,
Where's your power?
mm,
How do you go from here? Whatever challenges you may face, you can do them. You can master them. You can achieve it because my parents great and they
mm,
showed us each and every day that you can win.
mm. I love that. That's a beautiful message. I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here literally taking, like I said, I'm taking my mental notes over here. I want to go into talk about looks and being attractive. You were a beautiful little girl, a beautiful teenager, and you were in pageants. And you're a beautiful woman to this day. And some people may say that being attractive makes it an easy life for you or for anyone who is attractive. They don't have to work as hard. They don't have that many challenges. Things are handed to them. There's that thought process for some with pretty privilege, right? How would you deal with that, or how did you deal with that? And when people may say that to you, how does that make you feel? And what's the thought process behind that?
Pretty privilege. There's a chapter in my book called Pretty is as Pretty Does.
Yep.
And I remember one thing that my mom always told me. Um, she was trying to talk to me and my older sister about being responsible young women. Um, and she says a lot of people will want to talk to you just because you're pretty.
Mhm.
She said, but that should not never be your goal
Mhm.
because wow. She said there are a whole lot of beautiful women out there
Mm.
who are just filled with ugly.
Mm.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. Um, a lot of beautiful women, but they're just filled with ugly.
Mhm.
So to me, it was more important to be a person that not only I respect, but that others respect.
Mm.
Um, please myself, please my parents, please my God,
Mm.
and please my friends. Um, I don't know why that was a message that was instilled with me. But when my mother said that, it was something that I've always lived with.
Yeah.
So to me, it was more important to be beautiful on the inside.
Mm.
Proud of that, like a beautiful mind, a beautiful heart, a beautiful compassion. Um, Everything that you can find that's worth living for. It's not this. This can be gone in a minute. As a matter of fact, my curling iron hit my shoulder the other day, and it's
Mm.
probably left a permanent scar. And I'm thinking, I loved my shoulders. I'm going, like, give me shoulderless dresses and tops. I loved it. And now I've got this permanent scar here, and I'm going, well, was that really important?
Mm.
I'm going to still be able to do what I do to work. It's not going to make a difference.
Mhm.
But that's the power of self-thought because you could also tell yourself, I'm going to have to hide it all the time. Wear a scarf every day. Put a put a coat on so that nobody sees it. Pull your hair down so that nobody sees it.
Mhm.
So it's up to you to decide which life you choose to live.
Mm.
The one where you shine or the one where you retreat.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the message that your mother said to you. And I I love the jewels and things that still resonates. It hits differently, I can tell. And I could see the impact that she has left with you and the legacy that lives, like you said before, you know where you come from. You know your ancestors, you know how you were raised, and your parents poured into you. And your mother loved you in a way that was something special that made you into this amazing woman that you are today. And going on with that, throughout your career professionally, you have poured into other women. You didn't see them as competition. As I'm reading your book, you were not bashing, you were celebrating. And I think that that's something that shows testament to your character and who you are.
Thank you.
And I see some of that from based on what you're telling me about your mother. Where else did that come from? That has to be something internal and a choice that you make to not just, I'm here for somebody, like I'm here for me, but I can also celebrate this other woman here as she gets a role. She gets this opportunity. That's a conscious choice that you make. So, how did you get to that, and what made you start doing that?
Well, I'll give you an example. When I did Lady Sings the Blues with Billy D. Williams, and he played the lover of Diana Ross's character, Billy Holiday. And so I was cast to be the girlfriend of Billy D, Billy D's character. The movie was written to show his life before their meeting point, her life before their meeting point. So I'm his first girlfriend before he meets Diana. So he's got this lavish life, and we're going to clubs and all these nice conversations and all of that, And I'm so excited. It was what, 1972, 73, and I had just arrived in Hollywood, only 2 years before. And here I am, and this is Motown's big first foray into the movie industry. And I'm cast as Billy D's girlfriend.
That's a big deal. Like,
That's a big deal. That's a big
yeah.
deal, right? So we do the scenes and everything, and then when the screening comes up at the end, and I'm so happy that, I'm getting dressed, flying down the highway, get to the theater, and I'm so excited. I said, there's going to be press here, there's going to be people. I did a good job, and I'm on stage with Billy D, and I'm sitting there in the room, and scenes are going by, and there's no me. Another scene, no me. Another scene, no me. And no Billy D. I'm going, well, they're cutting all this out, and I didn't understand, but they were cutting it out. And so then they get to one point where Billy D walks into the nightclub where Diana first sees him. And there's a clip of me standing in front of him, walking down the stairs. Now, if you can imagine, this is the floor. They're coming in this way. And to go down to the club, you have to go down the stairs this way. So when I'm going down the stairs, you don't see my head. All you see is my legs and then my boobs, right?
Yeah.
And they cut.
Like,
And they cut, and there's that famous scene of Diana, and she first sees him, and she's standing at the bottom of the stairs. Her back is on the wall, and she just slides down the stairs. And it's like every woman in the world that had seen that movie at that moment, they knew exactly how she felt.
mm-hmm.
Billy D walked on camera and stole hearts all across the world,
Yeah.
and nobody ever saw me.
You're like,
I
but my
remember,
legs and my boobs.
I remember asking Barry, what happened?
Yeah.
He
Like,
said, he said, I wanted Billy D to be like Clark Gable. When in Gone with the Wind, when he walks in the room and there's that big staircase and he walks in and that's the first time you see him and he's in a white suit. Oh my God, heart breaks all across the world. And that's the moment that he wanted. So with showing me as his girlfriend leading up to it, wouldn't have worked.
yeah.
So, so the reason I said that is because you wanted to know how do you um, get through the industry feeling that the ups and downs are coming along.
Yeah.
So,
And also celebrating other women,
and celebrating
that
other
are,
women.
yeah,
So
that are that same, going out for roles and like as you guys are working together, there can be women that are like, I don't want to talk to you. I hope you lose. I hope bad things happen. But that's not you. And
no,
like I said, that's a choice that you have to make. You So it's
Because when Barry, no matter how much I wanted that, Barry Gordy made the right decision.
mhm,
And when Diana saw him, the whole world saw him, and
mhm,
they all fell in love with him. Just that one moment. So,
mhm.
for me, I'm saying, you get it, Diana.
You get it.
Yeah, you knocked it out of the ballpark. Yeah, so I was so happy for her. And I've celebrated so many other women. And I've been fortunate enough for other women to celebrate me. I remember Marla Gibbs they were doing an episode of 227, and there was a character where a beautiful lady who happens to be her daughter's art teacher. And she comes in the room, and there's a scene where Sandra comes in and she's got a boyfriend with her. And she says, we're just gonna, can we just have dinner with you? And she says, yeah, we're all gonna sit down. And she walks into the dining room, the living room, and she sees me sitting there and she goes, who's that? And she's going, no, 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 this competition ain't gonna happen, not on my watch. So she goes, well, maybe we'll go eat somewhere else, right? So in the end, I end up taking the boyfriend away from her.
Mm,
But that role, while we were at dinner, we were supposed to be talking about sports. Okay, about football, about this. So the idea was that, man, she can do anything. She's pretty, she's intelligent, she's got a job, she talks sports, and they're just ticking off all the things, right? And so the producers, she said, why don't we hire Jayne Kennedy?
wow.
Because I was on the NFL Today at that point.
Mhm.
And they said no. And she said, well, I'm not doing the show if you don't hire Jayne Kennedy. She knows sports. Why try to go get an actress to play somebody that knows sports when she's an actress that knows sports?
No sports.
And she insisted that they hire me, and they did. So
Wow.
I have no regret, and no, I have no anger towards any other woman in my field. Um, I do wish that I had the opportunities today that these major stars have. And I understand that they don't have what they want either at this point. I do understand that. And I do understand we need to keep knocking the doors down. But to see the progress that is made, and people they take it for granted. Like I was doing a show with 4 women broadcasters, and Taylor Rooks said, it was me, Pam Oliver, Stephanie Reddy, and Taylor Rooks.
Yep.
And as the youngest one, it was a generational piece.
Mhm.
So she says, I'm listening to you, and I had no idea that life was that hard for you in this industry. She said, I take it for granted that if I want a job, I can walk into the room and get a job. She said, I did not realize I was never taught about our history. And so that's first of all, it's terrible that she was never taught, but that's a major thing that we must address because we're having our history erased, as I said before.
Yep.
It's up to us to make sure that it doesn't get erased.
100%.
What we do with our friends in supporting them, and what we do with our children in guiding them.
Be the best that I can be. This is not a game, not a game. This is my life. This is not a